fortunate enough to do a number of events here for the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail, and I want to welcome you to the latest one. And honestly, every time we come to these, it's always amazing the turnout that we get. As I was saying to somebody earlier, when I was looking at the briefing, one of our staff had written down, there's plenty of parking. There's 25 spaces, so there should be plenty. Obviously, somebody who's never been to a Bruce Freeman Rail Trail event before. So, as all of you know, but for recap for anybody who doesn't, when complete, the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail will be a 25-mile trail between Lowell and Framingham. And today we are celebrating Phase 2B, which connects the trail across Route 2 between Concord and Acton. And I am excited to introduce our first speaker today, Mass DOT Secretary and CEO, Monica Tibbetts-Nutt. A champion of both multimodal transportation and the environment, the Secretary appreciates the importance of projects like these rail trails, and we've been to a number of ones together already over the last few weeks since she's been in her role. And she knows this trail will enhance the accessibility, promotes physical and mental well-being, and boosts economic development for the region, and also, of course, builds community pride. And really, again, that you look at the advocates and the citizens that we have here, and it's always amazing to see the turnouts on all of these. But please join me in welcoming Secretary Monica Tibbetts-Nutt to the podium.
Good morning, everyone. I knew this turnout was going to be amazing. When I saw that parking space, I'm like, that is not going to be enough. As I was telling someone, the best attended events and ribbon cuttings are always the rail trails. And I think it not only speaks to the dedication of the community and the friends of the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail, but I think it also speaks to the dedication over many decades that it takes to get these trails built. As you all know, there are many people who have been involved in this over the last several years. So I'm going to go through as long a list as I think they'll give me with the amount of time I have. But as you all know, many, many more people played a role in this. First, I want to thank Senator Mike Barrett. And most of these people are here today, so I'm going to get through this quickly. Senator Mike Barrett, Senator Jamie Eldridge, Representative Simon Cataldo, Representative Carmine Gentile, and unfortunately, Representative Daniil Sena was not able to join us today. And then obviously all the local leadership. Concord Town Manager Carrie LaFleur, Deputy Town Manager Zamuto, Acton Town Manager John Maggiorati, and the former Concord Planning Director Marcia Rasmussen. I also obviously want to thank the community leaders of Acton and Concord and the many, many friends of the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail. As Jonathan said, these trails are so incredibly important to our Commonwealth. I, along with the Healy-Driscoll administration, understand that our connections are not just about roads and they're not just about rail. They are our local community paths, they're our local community roads, and all the many, many options that we want our residents to have. I'm very lucky. This was a very quick commute for me this morning. I live in Devens, so I come through here every single day for my commute to Boston. And I think anyone who knows what that commute's like knows, between 50 minutes, 2.5 hours, it really is a mystery in any given day. But one of the beautiful things is, as we build more of these rail trails, it gives people more options to get out of their car. We have commuter rail stations here. They're very hard to connect to a lot of the time. I think when many of these roadways were built, we were building them for the types of communities that we don't really have anymore. They viewed places like Concord as just suburban communities. Whereas now we know these are vibrant communities that are making the decisions that need to be made to make them more welcoming places. Building more housing, making rail trail connections, continuing to push the Commonwealth and other communities to make more and more connections. Every time one of these is finished, you give someone a new opportunity for a better place to live. Housing is a major, major focus of this administration and a very, very big focus of mine. We all know housing, transportation, economic development are intrinsically linked. We need people to be able to get to where they work, and we need people to be able to live closer to where they work. And like I said, we need people to have more options. Our young people are choosing not to get driver's licenses because they want to commute in different ways. They want to be able to take bike paths, not just to school, but to their internships, to be able to visit their friends. So all the work this group has done not only is going to pay off for the residents today and to pay off for all of you, but it really is about the next generation. And so, as I said to many of you, I love these ribbon cuttings. I really, really do, because I think it shows what communities can do. And we always get to cut the ribbons, but you are the ones that actually make this happen. So I want to thank you, not just for Mass DOT, but for the Healy Driscoll administration. You are doing amazing work that is not just helping the communities that are connected by this rail trail, but are helping the Commonwealth and making this a type of place that our residents don't just want to stay in, but that residents want to move to. And it also speaks to, as I said, the commitment to not just building better pathways to commute, but building better options for people to live. So I want to thank you, as I said, not just on behalf of the Healy Driscoll administration, but for the rest of the Commonwealth. You are setting the example, and today shows what work of residents and work of elected officials can create. Now we just need to make many more of these connections, and we are dedicated to working with all of you and all of the many friends of the many rail trails throughout the Commonwealth to close these gaps. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Secretary. Next, I am honored to introduce our Congresswoman, Lori Trahan. Congresswoman Trahan became the first woman elected to represent the Massachusetts 3rd District in 2018, but has been a tireless advocate for her local community long before that. Congresswoman Trahan has been breaking down barriers and setting a winning trajectory for her district now since being elected. Born and raised in Lowell, the Congresswoman knows firsthand the importance of this rail trail, and her dedication to public service and her efforts to make a positive impact on her community is admirable. I am honored to welcome her to the stage. Congresswoman.
Okay. Can you hear me? Is that good?
Yeah.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I want to thank Administrator Gulliver, Secretary Tibbetts-Nutt, the entire Healy Driscoll administration for their partnership on not just infrastructure as we typically think about it, but on game-changing community building projects like this one. I would be remiss if I didn't also acknowledge the all-star state delegation assembled here today, Senators Barrett and Eldridge, Representatives Cataldo and Gentile. I'm so grateful for their partnership on Beacon Hill, which is instrumental in ensuring that Acton and Concord continue to receive the support they need to get projects like this one done. I'm excited to be here in Concord to finally celebrate the official ribbon cutting of this crucial section of the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail. And I want to thank you all for your patience. I might have had something to do with the rescheduling of this. Washington has, well, let's just say it's kept me there a little bit more than I've wanted, but I have been so excited to come and celebrate with all of you who have been at this for years. Infrastructure isn't always the most exciting thing to talk about. We all know that roads, bridges, culverts are critical to the safety and the economic development of our communities, but projects like this one, with so much public support, make it easy to see the benefits and that infrastructure can have on our communities. The access to the outdoors, the safe stretches to bike, run, walk, the connection of our communities. I want to give a special shout out to all of the friends of the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail for joining us here this morning. I wish I could bring you to some of my culvert ribbon cuttings. They're not as well attended. But first of all, I am proud to be a member of the Friends. If you can imagine Halloween morning, getting a couple of girls on the school bus with their costumes on. I was looking for my hat to wear, and it just wasn't in the cards for me to find it this morning. But I wish I brought pictures of what my house looks like in a world-class effort to find it. But I remember the excitement of the first section of the trail opening in Lowell back in 2009. And it's thanks to your dedicated advocacy that this trail now extends all across the district I'm proud to represent. And my girls and I have been able to enjoy bike rides and walks in Westford, Chelmsford, and Carlisle. I've trained for a couple of marathons on that rail trail. My husband still bikes the full end-to-end 15 miles on a weekly basis. But you all know better than anyone. In the past, rail trail projects like this one have been kicked down the road thanks in large part to federal divestment of infrastructure projects. Past administrations, Republican and Democratic alike, have talked about reversing that trend, but ultimately failed to significantly reinvest in our infrastructure. But that all changed with President Biden. This president and this Congress stepped up to pass the bipartisan infrastructure law, which is helping to transform towns like Acton and Concord that have long been left to fend for themselves. This law is delivering $9.5 billion in federal funding to the Commonwealth over the next 5 years. And I look forward to maximizing those opportunities beyond the federal formula grant funding with the folks standing here with me today to turn those dollars of investment from 9.5 to 10, 12, 15, $10 billion for the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. The bottom line is that the infrastructure law delivered $9.1 million of federal funding to the Phase 2B of the rail trail. And when combined with another $2.2 million in state funding, Mass DOT was able to get this project done. The bridge over Route 2 not only connects the trail through the towns of Acton and Concord, but this now means that there are 15 miles of unbroken trail from Cross Point Tower in Lowell to Powder Mill Road in Concord. That means our community will be healthier and happier as more families like my own will be getting outside to enjoy all that the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail has to offer. Outcomes like this are exactly why this was the easiest vote for me to cast down in Washington a few years ago. But the funding doesn't stop there. Last year, we celebrated $12 million for the Kelly's Corner intersection in Acton. And Mass DOT is using an additional $10 million in federal funding for Phase 2D of the rail trail to extend the bike path in Sudbury, in Concord and Sudbury. I look forward to seeing these final phases of the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail extension and other critical infrastructure projects across the 3rd District completed in the months and the years ahead. And of course, I'm excited, but mostly grateful to all of you here this morning to making sure that we keep delivering the resources necessary to make Acton and Concord an even better place to live, to work, and to call home. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you, Congresswoman. And I will say I may be in the minority here, but I get excited every time you talk about infrastructure, so I hope you keep it up. All right, next I am thrilled to welcome a longtime advocate for the rail trail, and he's the Middlesex and Worcester District State Senator, Jamie Eldridge. He has been a leading voice in advancing equity and justice across the Commonwealth. And as we focus on transportation equity and the environment, I know the senator can really appreciate the work that we are celebrating here today. Again, he's known for his community engagement, and he is known for being a collaborative partner in government, and that's something, as everybody here knows, is incredibly important when you're working, especially on things like rail trails. It takes a lot of collaboration and a lot of effort to get a community to buy into these, and this is somebody who's been one of the strongest advocates for these projects and for building these segments. So please welcome to the stage Senator Eldridge.
Well, good morning, everyone, and I want to thank Administrator Gulliver and Transportation Secretary Tibbetts-Nutt for being here and their commitment already in this year, not only to funding and supporting the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail Phase 2B, but I think approximately 20 rail trail projects across the Commonwealth. And I think it's important to celebrate that, because really what's happened now with the Healy-Driscoll administration, but also under the previous administration, is creating this Mass Trails unit under Mass Highway that's focused on making sure to deliver critical federal and state dollars to making sure that these rail trail projects continue to expand across the Commonwealth. And I say that as the state senator for the Middlesex and Worcester District, not only the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail, but the Assabet River Rail Trail, the Nash River Rail Trail, and now the Mass Central Rail Trail, which is going through Sudbury and Hudson right now. I'm incredibly grateful for all the stakeholders involved, and I think each phase has had its unique challenge. And obviously the challenge for this Phase 2B, connecting Acton and Concord on this 1 mile length of rail trail, has been how to fund and construct this trail. And so that's why I cannot thank enough Congresswoman Lori Trahan, not only for her support for the bipartisan infrastructure law, but for being very, very focused on each of the communities that she represents to make sure there's partnerships, to make sure there's those federal dollars to make critical projects like this happen. So I'd really like to give a special thank you to Congresswoman Trahan for her leadership. The state legislative delegation, of course, has worked as always as close partnerships. Myself, Senator Barrett, who of course represents Concord, Representative Cataldo and Representative Gentile, and Representative Danilo Senna have worked to advocate for this project. But I also want to recognize someone who, talking about the history of this project, has consistently been an advocate for this, and we always joke about her going into those MPO meetings early often on a Monday morning at the Transportation Plaza in Boston to advocate for this Bruce Freeman Rail Trail funding. Former State Senator, my predecessor, Pam Rezor. Pam, thank you so much for your leadership. It has been a 20-year effort, and I particularly want to celebrate what is going to be connected with this Phase 2B. First, you're connecting two towns, Acton and Concord, that obviously have early historical ties going back to, of course, the American Revolution, but also have a lot of great appreciation for protecting open space, protecting the historical character of each town, and really trying to make sure that residents have access to recreational opportunities. Just behind us with Warner's Pond and the future Giroux Recreational Park by the town of Concord, that is really, really going to be special. This rail trail running along not only MCI Concord, and actually one of the cemeteries for some of the formerly incarcerated men that runs along the trail. It's opening it up to the agricultural fields. It's opening up to some of the marshlands, and then going over Route 2, the Route 2 bridge into Acton, and highlighting some of the economic opportunities that this Phase 2B is going to create with all the businesses on Great Road. And I think that's important to highlight. This isn't just about increasing recreational opportunities for residents. It's not just about getting people out there exercising, spending more time with their families, but it's going to create incredible economic potential to connect these two towns through this Phase 2B of the rail trail. And that's something that when you think about these millions of dollars in investments, that's going to redouble and triple and quadruple in terms of the benefit to these communities, and I would really say the whole region. These projects would not happen without the professional staffs that do the great work. I'm so glad that the former Concord Planning Director, Marcia Rasmussen, is here. She partnered very closely with the former Acton Town Planner, Roland Bartle, on really the vision for this region, for the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail. So I want to thank both of them for their leadership. I know Kristen Gouchard, the Acton Town Planner, is here, who's done tremendous work as well over the past couple of years. This project, that I know my preceding speakers already highlighted, would not happen without the leadership of the Friends of the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail. The Friends of the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail is the leading organization statewide for advocating for rail trails, and that's why you're seeing the success of this rail trail that, as Secretary Tibbetts noted, is not just connecting Acton and Concord and Sudbury, but eventually we'll be going to Framingham. So imagine this rail trail going from Framingham to Lowell, the potential that's going to unlock for this whole region. So I want to thank the Friends, continue to be led by Tom Michaelman, but there's so many leaders here, both in Acton and Concord, that have led this effort for this very, very exciting day today. So thank you so much for your leadership. So happy to be here. And I joke that even before there was the official opening of this rail trail, I know that many of you were already riding this rail trail, even though it wasn't officially open. We all did it. I did it as well. So thank you very much. Congratulations.
All right, thank you, Senator. And we're fortunate to have two senators today, and again, amongst many elected officials who have been really advocating for this project. And the next speaker here is the senator for the 3rd Middlesex District, Mike Barrett. And for those of you who know Senator Barrett, you know that he has a profound understanding of the opportunities and challenges that the district faces, as well as all of Massachusetts. He is chair of the Telecommunications, Utilities, and Energy Committee, and he's vice chair of Global Warming and Climate Change Committee. And he is the author of bills on many renewable energy and climate change. I think we'd be selling him short to say he's an environmental advocate. And I know firsthand from working with him on a number of projects over the years that he really holds our feet to the fire at Mass DOT to make sure that we are moving progress forward. And he's especially been thrilled, however, that we've been investing in pedestrian and bicycle needs across the state. So everyone, please join me in giving a warm welcome to Senator Mike Barrett.
Well, welcome. It's terrific to be here and to join this all-star team. My thanks to MassDOT and especially to the Secretary and, of course, to Congresswoman Lori Trahan and to my colleagues in the legislative delegation. Senator Eldridge has been at this for so long. He's really our leader in terms of the rail trail issue throughout Massachusetts. We all look to him because he's got a depth of knowledge, and he's absolutely right, of course, to call many of you out because you've been on that rail trail even before the official opening today. My wife and I have been on that rail trail also before the official opening. I have already taken my first spill on parts 2B and 2C. I was tooling along, not quite legal perhaps, a year ago this spring, and a toddler came. Well, actually, it was a mom. A toddler was coming toward the trail, and the mom very smartly backed into the trail in order to make sure she could support her kid. And so I had to put on the brakes inexpertly, took a spill, made it, feel like I've christened the rail trail in my own unofficial way. This morning, my wife took the Minuteman Rail Trail from our home in Lexington down to Alewife. She works in downtown Boston. 8 miles. The bus service has been on and off. We want it to get a little better in terms of its reliability, the T-bus service, I mean. The rail trail now operates as an adjunct, a supplement to bus service from Bedford and Lexington and Arlington down to Alewife. And when the weather is decent, as it is today, even in the early morning dark, it's the way that my wife begins her commute, after which she goes on to the Red Line. And when you go on Zillow in Lexington, Massachusetts, and you take a look at the perks, the amenities that homeowners mention as they try to play up the appeal of their property, the proximity to the rail trail is now crucial to the entire sales proposition. That's what's going to happen here for West Concord. This is going to be more than a very nice adjacent bit of public infrastructure. This is going to become central to the appeal of an already extraordinary place, West Concord, right? You're going to see some additional housing in West Concord. You're going to see this transportation-oriented development coax forward more residents, which is going to make the area even stronger and more vibrant at street level and above. This rail trail in the next decade is going to be listed routinely by all of you as one of the things that commends the neighborhood to the world at large. So this isn't merely an enhancement. This is central to the kind of build-up we anticipate and build-out we anticipate for Eastern Massachusetts. So I just want to thank all my colleagues. I was struck by the eloquence and the attentiveness in the statements of the Secretary and Congresswoman. They've really given a lot of thought to these approaches. I'm happy to be a part of the team that Senator Eldridge has assembled in the Massachusetts legislature. And I want to end by just observing what I think many of you know. A lot of transportation planning is top down. The mega projects involve a lot of community consultation, but they start oftentimes with a vision. You think of the Big Dig, for example, and Transportation Secretary Fred Salvucci, who probably had that vision as soon as anyone did way back in the day. You guys started the planning for this project from the grassroots up. This was your vision. You sold it to the rest of us. It only took you 20 years. So my thanks above all goes to you. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Senator. And as the Senator just alluded to, this has been there was a team here of elected officials that really makes these projects happen. And I am now pleased to invite up to the podium our next speaker, who is the representative from the 14th Middlesex District, Representative Simon Cataldo. I know that many of you know that the representative will eloquently explain the significance of the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail. He grew up in Concord and has deep roots in the community and really understands the meaning and what this really does for the communities that this is going to connect to. And he has done a lot of work on behalf of the community and on behalf of not only the state but the country as well. He founded the Harlem Lacrosse Program, working across the U.S. He's worked with the Department of Justice. Now he's up at Beacon Hill. And I'm just speaking on behalf of many folks when I say that we are really excited to see the impact that Representative Cataldo will have on the legislature. Please join me in welcoming the rep to the podium.
Hi, everyone. Look at all the dignitaries who are here in West Concord. It's amazing. I never thought when I was growing up along 62 over there that I'd have the opportunity to welcome a secretary and a congresswoman and all these important people to West Concord. I'm so glad to be here. And you know, looking at this group makes me think, can you imagine who would come here for the ribbon cutting if we fixed the Rotary? The President of the United States, the UN Secretary General, Prince William and Kate Middleton. So we're ready for that. We're ready for that. You know, I was laughing to myself a little bit when Senator Barrett was recounting his accident. I have 3 little toddlers who are frequently along here, and I just want to assure you and place on the record that none of them was there, Senator, for that accident. But this is very personal to me. Right after I was elected, the first thing I did was teach the oldest of our 3 children, who was 4 at the time, how to ride his bike. And then very quickly we started riding along the rail trail. And one day, late in the summer, right before school started, we rode from West Concord Village, from the train station, all the way up to the top of the bridge. And this was not just one of the best moments of my life, but one of the best, you know, not just the best moment of my parenthood, but one of the best moments of my life. And, you know, you're giving that gift to so many people. And I know that because I'm part of this community, but because we are here so frequently and seeing the smiles on people's faces as they enjoy what you did. You know, every time that I'm at an event like this, I learn something. And I was talking to Sharon earlier today. I'm so sorry to embarrass you, Sharon, but I just have to share a little bit of what you told me. You know, Sharon was in Chelmsford, near the library in South Chelmsford in 1985. And she ran into Bruce Freeman with a friend. And she started talking about this idea for a rail trail. And that's how this started. And, you know, so lesson number 1, talk to your reps, talk to your elected politicians. Like, we're here for you. That's why we are here, why we get paid. But lesson number 2 is they worked on it for years and they couldn't get it done. Even though they identified all this state land that was where it needed to be. And so they were working and they had to basically stop. And then somebody else picked up the torch years later in 2003 in Concord, and the committee was formed, and then people who had been involved got back involved. And as Senator Barrett said so eloquently, this happened in a grassroots manner. But we can draw lessons from that. You know, if something gets tried, like fixing the rotary, and it doesn't work out, then we try again. And what you all have done in this collaborative way, from grassroots community groups to town officials, to state officials, to federal officials, gives me a lot of hope. So I'll end with that. Thank you so much. It is wonderful to be with you.
Thank you, Representative. And I still think of our next speaker as actually being a new rep, but as I was thinking and working through my notes, I believe I met Rep. Gentile almost a decade ago now at another rail trail event, I think in Framingham, Representative. So he's now been around a while and working on this, to say the least. And boy, time really flies as well. You know, his dedication to these projects and to these segments speaks a lot. At the fact that he's here today, again representing the Framingham area, he is truly a dedicated public servant and has a strong commitment to his district and the benefits, and understands the benefits that a rail trail like this is going to bring to it. So please welcome to this podium Rep. Gentile.
Well, I want to thank Administrator Gulliver and the Secretary, and Congressman Trahan, and the entire delegation, Massachusetts delegation, for all their work on this. You know, Tip O'Neill said all politics are local, and the Friends of the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail really put it together to move this forward. You know, we really need to look at everything through a climate change lens. When I was a little boy, I remember watching television, and President Eisenhower, you know, they'd have President Eisenhower, a photo of him, and there'd be a Pledge of Allegiance on the kiddie show I was watching, you know. And I remember Eisenhower, I didn't know he was doing it at the time, I was just a little small child. But I learned years later that he put together an interstate highway system, and that we take for granted today, but it connects the whole country. And it allowed the automobile and the trucks to take over. So the trucking industry grew and the railroad industry receded. And we didn't know anything about climate change in those days. We didn't realize that putting carbon into the atmosphere was going to do what it's done to us. So what do we have now? Now we have the rise of rail trails, which will allow people to get out of their cars and walk, ride their bicycles, not having to get into a car. And these rail trails connect public transportation centers, buses, commuter rail. So we look forward, you know, when I was growing up, my dad worked for the railroad. He worked for a railroad pretty much his whole life. And he didn't get a driver's license. He didn't buy a car till he was 39 years old, because he was able to take public transportation from Watertown into Boston and do whatever he had to do working for the railroad. Finally got to be 39 and he had to work outside of the Boston area for the railroad. He got a car, got a driver's license. But we're getting back, we're moving back, I think, and I hope, to where people don't have to go out and buy cars. If we need a car, someday we'll just be able to call for it and it'll come and get us. But, you know, this rail trail is long in the making. You know, I see a number of people here from Sudbury, my hometown. We've got Len Simon, a former selectman who became a member of the select board to see that the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail got built in Sudbury. I believe that was his #1 issue. And I think, you know, even before, or at this time, or maybe a few years earlier than Len got involved, Dick Williamson has been in Sudbury just Mr. Bruce Freeman Rail Trail. We have others here as well. I see other folks from Sudbury here who are really active in getting the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail built. And I'm so glad, you know, they'll be paving it soon. We'll have the trail done in Sudbury in a few months. Last year, funding came, federal funding, state funding, to build the Framingham portion. The whole trail will be connected. Dick Williamson would joke at town meeting if he'd be alive, to see it done. You'll be alive to see it done, Dick.
I will.
You will. You will. Yeah. So, it's always a group effort. When I was in high school, I was at a meeting of the American Association of the Advancement of Science. I was like, a helper. And I saw Margaret Mead sitting down. She was one of the first ones to enter that room they were going to have a meeting in, and she sat down. She was on crutches, and I'd heard of her. I knew she was a great anthropologist. I grabbed a water pitcher, went over and offered her a glass of water. And she said, and a lot of, it's a very famous saying, never wonder, what a small, number of people can do. A small number of people can change the world. A small group of people can change the world. And indeed, that's always how it's been, or paraphrasing her. And, the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail started out with Bruce Freeman and a small group of people, and it's grown and grown and grown. As a early speaker noted, this is a ground up effort. And so thank you all for coming today. I'm looking forward to the completion of the trail and other trails in the Commonwealth. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Representative. Before we move on to our municipal speakers, I do want to acknowledge that Rep. Sina, who is unable to be here today, also a very strong advocate with a deep history with the rail trail. I think those of you who know him know that he was a former staffer for Senator Eldridge, so obviously has some strong feelings about the rail trail, but was unfortunately unable to be here today. So next I want to welcome up to the stage Megan Zamuto, who is the Deputy Town Manager of Concord. Megan?
Thank you. Good morning. I'm so happy to be here. I am new to Concord, but I'm not new to the area. I live about 2 miles from an access point of the Bruce Freeman Trail, and I run on it often. Every time I run on this trail, I'm amazed by the beauty. I'm also impressed by the number of people and how many people are using this trail on a regular basis. And since I work in government, I often think about how much work that I know must have gone into this amazing project. It's inspiring to me that a rail line that was built in 1871 has been reinvented to a path to connect people and the region and provide a valuable amenity. I just want to say thank you, and I'm grateful for everyone here who helped to make this a reality, and for the people that have gone before us that have worked on this project. It's such an amazing vision, and I'm thrilled to benefit from it, and I'm thrilled to continue to work on it. So thank you all.
All right, thank you, Megan. And again, we're at this particular segment's connecting Acton and Concord. So I want to invite up to the podium Select Board Member Dean Charter. And being a Select Board member is no easy feat for any of you who were involved in town government knows, to say the least. But his dedication and making sure that he's representative of the residents is a huge thing. So come on up, Dean.
Thank you very much. Dash accompanied me over from Ice House Pond in Acton, walking the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail. One of our favorite walks. Now she's being very shy, although she greeted many of you when we got here. Speaking as a Select Board member in Acton and also as chairman of the Community Preservation Committee, I think it's important that we keep in mind the long-term funding that our local taxpayers and the state match have contributed to the design and a lot of the work here on the rail trail. Our former planner, Roland Bartle, just wore us out year after year, coming back and looking for more money and always telling us this is priming the pump. And it did prime the pump. And what a wonderful facility we have here now. The way it's connected the towns of Acton and Concord, and all the way up to Lowell, and eventually all the way down to Framingham. The economic value of that, to say nothing of the health benefits. One of the other grants that the town received a year or so ago was a wayfinding grant. We've now installed a lot of infrastructure of signage in the Acton section and the Concord section, directing people to some of the commercial establishments, the restaurants, the cultural features. Our planning department has done a great job, and our economic development director as well, in getting that all in place. It really has created a very vibrant area, which what used to be sort of backland in Acton. So I just want to, on behalf of my colleagues on the select board, thank all of our federal and state partners, our partners here in Concord, for what a wonderful job we've all done together. Bruce Freeman, the Friends of the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail have just been tireless with pursuing this. I remember talking about this when I was on town staff with Tom Michelman probably 25 years ago. The dedication that he's put into it, and all the other folks on the Rail Trail Committee. So, in closing, I just want to thank you all and say that this will just be another step in the right direction towards connecting all of our communities. My father grew up in Acton, over in West Acton, on the piece of property I live on now. And he related to me that in the 1930s, he could walk from our house over to the East Acton Village Green at Ice House Pond and get on the train, and with only 2 connections, go to visit relatives in Manchester, New Hampshire. That's the kind of infrastructure that used to exist here. Those rights of way still exist in many areas, and what a great opportunity to connect all of them. So thank you very much on behalf of the town.
All right, thank you, Dean. And last but not least, I want you to join me in welcoming Marcia Rasmussen. Marcia is obviously well known around these parts and is the former Director of Planning and Land Management for the town of Concord. During her tenure, she has worked on many impactful projects, but perhaps more importantly today, she held an integral role in the creation of the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail. Marcia worked on this project from the very beginning, and even in her retirement continues to see it through to fruition, working part-time with the town of Sudbury. Please join me in welcoming Marcia to the podium.
All right. I know you're all really tired of standing around, and I hope I don't go too long, but I like to provide a little bit of historic perspective. In my new role as a part-time planner for the town of Sudbury, providing support for their rail trail projects, I was recently asked, why was it taking so long to build the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail in Sudbury, which is 5 miles, when it took only 6 years to construct the transcontinental railroad across the United States? I just shook my head. If he only knew. For this bridge over Route 2, construction started in the spring of 2020 when it seemed the world had turned upside down. There were delays in receiving materials, concerns with some of the design features, really incredible plans for rerouting traffic on Route 2, while critter crossings and culverts were installed underneath the road, and bridge abutments and piers were hoisted into place over the road. And people who had a hard time reading and obeying signs that said, "Active construction zone, please, no trespassing." But the design for this project really began in 2002 and 2004 with the formation of the Friends of the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail and the adoption of the Community Preservation Acts by Acton and Concord. The Friends helped by building community support for the project, and the adoption of the CPA helped provide the community funding for the design in Acton and the matching funds for the design in Concord. At the same time, select board members from Acton, Concord, and Lincoln We're in active discussions with Mass DOT and others about improvements to the Route 2 rotary. They were dealing with Crosby Corner and the rotary at the same time. And in 2008, part of the rotary design included crossing the Route 2 with the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail. And it looked like plans would proceed and we wouldn't have to worry about that. That could be done. But then Mass DOT removed that item from planning. So lobbying efforts from Acton and Concord reinstated the Route 2 crossing for the Bruce Freeman in the state's long-range tip. And that commitment came from Mass DOT to provide 25% design. Senator Jamie Eldridge assured this would happen by including funding in a transportation bond bill. When the Acton portion of the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail went through Westford, Carlisle, and Acton was under construction, then Acton Planning Director Roland Bartle began working with Mass DOT and their consultant AECom on the functional design report for the Bruce Freeman to be designed. Roland and I spent several days traveling into Boston to discuss the design and layout for the bridge because the aesthetics were very important to residents in both communities, as well as those concerned with the potential wetland and environmental impacts. You see the Neshoba Brook also goes under Route 2 there. So we wanted to make sure that we got it right. And while I can't remember all the names of those involved, I know everyone around the table, from Mass DOT, AECom, Acton, and Concord, were committed to making the best looking design possible that was also economic and feasible. The consultant team evaluated various layouts, but it was a longtime engineer from District 4 who, after listening to all the pros and cons of various layouts, opined that the best layout would be the one that followed the original railroad right-of-way because the land on either side had already been protected as Chapter 90 lands, and we didn't want to delay this further by trying to change that. That report was finalized in 2016. So at this point, Roland said, Marcia, it's your turn. He handed over the 2B project to Concord, and, and taking his lead, he certainly set a high bar. But we couldn't get that design underway until we had secured funding. So working with the former town manager, Chris Whalen, he included $250,000 in the town's capital improvement plan. And I made a request to the Community Preservation Committee, who matched that amount. So we had $500,000 from Concord. Then I needed to access the funds that were in Mass DOT for their portion of the for the remaining portion of the design, and Acton also used community preservation funds for their portion of the design. So it was working with these three entities to get the contract in place, and we engaged Greenman Peterson Incorporated as the design engineers, the consulting design engineers. Greenman Peterson was the selected consultant, and Matt Kearney was our lead project manager, working with many others at GPI. And in some ways, this design was easier than other portions of the rail trail because there were no direct residential abutters, but it still had its challenges. The PS&E, the plans, specifications, and estimate were provided, that package, to Mass DOT in the summer of 2019, and bids were opened in the fall of 2019 with MIG Corporation, located here in Acton, as the successful bidder. They were wonderful to work with. So in the spring of 2020, the contractor, arborists, engineers from Mass DOT, representatives from GPI, and town staff from Concord and I think maybe Acton, we walked the entire site to discuss how it would proceed, invasive species removal, and trees to be removed or trimmed. And the rest is what you see today. This project would not have been possible without the federal and state funding for construction and without the commitment and support from our federal and state delegations who ensured these funds were available to the MPO and Mass DOT. I am so grateful for all who played a role in seeing this project through, from the vision of State Representative Bruce Freeman of Chelmsford and the legislative delegations representing Acton and Concord over the years, who continued to support this vision. I'm grateful to the folks at the Central Transportation Planning staff and the MPO for the care and effort that they put into the study and planning that is done for major projects like this one. The original feasibility study for the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail was completed in 1987, 1 year after I started working for the town of Concord. Through the 90s, I was trying to get money included in the town's budget for design for the Bruce Freeman. It wasn't until 2000 and 2000 when Bob Armstrong invited me to his house with other people who were interested in the Bruce Freeman to say, what do we do? How do we move this forward? How can we get it designed? And I said, you need to form a friends group, and I can't be a part of that because I work for the town. It's got to be grassroots. It's got to come from you. They listened, and they did it. So in addition to the MPO, I want to shout out the Massachusetts Department of Transportation. All levels worked to get this done. The project managers at DOT in Boston, the District 4 engineers that I was able to work with, the District 3 engineers that Roland was working with, they listened patiently to us, and they were able to explain clearly what the process was and how to make it work. I'm grateful to design consultants such as Greenman Peterson and the contractors like MIG Corporation, because they can take a major project like this and think creatively in 4 dimensions. They not only have to think of what it's going to look like when it's done, but how to make it happen over time. To me, that is amazing, and I do thank them for that ability. They make it happen. I'm grateful to the Friends for their support and efforts to keep this project on track, and especially Bob Armstrong and President Tom Michelman. Thank you. I'm also so grateful to the staff at the Concord Department of Planning and Land Management who provided support to me and to the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail Advisory Committee, especially Heather Carey, who is an administrative staff person in my office who helped with the graphics for the interpretive panel that you'll see on this portion, and to Delia Kay, Natural Resources Director, who was instrumental in discussing the ecology of how this would work in this area, and to take into consideration the wetlands that were involved. I also want to call out former town manager Chris Whalen and finance director Tony Legalbo, who made sure that the local funding was provided and available when needed. And for my planning counterparts in Acton, Roland Bartle and Kristen Guichard, it was amazing to work with you, and thank you so much for being there. And for the Concord residents who stepped up to serve on the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail Advisory Committee, I hope you know how much I appreciated your participation and perspective in all of this. I consider myself to be very, very fortunate to have been a witness to all the good works that have been done by so many. And I thank you one and all for helping to make it happen and for being here today to celebrate this wonderful project.
All right, thank you, Marcia. That is the end of our formal speaking program. But before we wrap up, I just want to acknowledge a few other people that Marcia, I think, probably named off pretty much everybody I was going to. But if you've been around bike trails, you've probably met Pete Sutton. Pete, raise your hand. Hey. Pete is instrumental in working on trails projects across the Commonwealth. He was telling me before we started today that finished almost 18 miles worth of trails this past year, and we have more to come. And there's obviously a lot more work to do, but Pete has been, again, a key person in making that happen for a number of years now. I also want to thank our District 4 team. We have many of them here today. These guys are responsible, along with our other district staff in District 3, where the rest of this trail goes through. These guys are responsible and instrumental in making sure that the designs get done on time, that the PS&E, as Marcia said, that is somebody who's in the weeds that can rip off an acronym like that. But to make sure that the plans get forward, that the construction gets done. Marcia mentioned our contractors and consultants, but again, our district team, who is really critical in getting these things done on time, and also was responsible for this great setup here today. And then finally, the advocates that are here today, all of you are what really makes these projects happen, and we thank you for your continued advocacy in making sure that these projects get the attention that they need, get the funding they need, and that they get built, and they provide these important connections across the Commonwealth. And if you haven't seen it yet, Lynn Simon over here has some great information on the Sudbury portion of the trail that you should check out over here on the table. So with that, on behalf of the Healy Driscoll administration, and again, especially all of us here at Mass DOT, I want to thank all of you for taking time this morning to celebrate this important milestone. And I just want to invite the speakers up for in front of the check here for a quick photo op before we wrap up. Thanks, everybody.